scholars and anyone else who's ready to turn their brain on full blast on this great Monday morning. Welcome to Are You Smarter Than a Libertarian? I'm Jeff Metrick, and if you've ever found yourself cornered in debate with a question like, why do you hate helping people? This is the episode for you. Today we're talking about one of the sneakiest traps in the rhetorical game, the loaded question. Buckle up because we're about to spend the next 8 minutes dissecting how they work, why they're used, and most importantly, how to avoid getting ambushed by them. Now, first we have to define what a loaded question is. A loaded question is basically the rhetorical equivalent of a snake hiding in the grass. It contains an assumption that you're forced to accept just by answering yes or no. Imagine someone asking, have you stopped kicking cute little puppy yet? Answer yes, and you've admitted to kicking them in the past. Answer no, which most everyone would do, and you're still apparently punting puppies like it's the NFL. Both answers are a trap. You might be thinking, okay, that's silly. Who would ask such a dumb question? But trust me, real-world loaded questions are often just as ridiculous. They're a quick and dirty way to corner you into a position you never wanted to take. It's like being asked, when did you become a St. Louis Cardinals fan when you've rooted for the Cubs your whole life? Although if you're a Cubs fan, you know that question is loaded, right? I mean, we all do. I live in Chicago. And hey, if you're a Cardinals fan, well, let's just agree to disagree and proceed with caution. At least we can unite over not kicking puppies, right? Now, why loaded questions are so common? Because they're fairly easy to use. So why do people use loaded questions? And that's a great question. One that isn't loaded, by the way. They're popular in political debates, social media arguments, I've seen those, and talk because they provide instant drama. Nothing gets clicks and views faster than a gotcha moment. Now, you'll see politicians do this to each other all the time. They will throw out questions like, why do you ignore the will of the people? That's what the Democrats do. Or, when will you stop bowing to corporate interests? That's what they say about Republicans. The question itself assumes you're ignoring the will of the people or you're already serving corporate masters. Answering directly to deny it can look like you just conceded it might be true. It's like if someone in your household asks, are you going to do the dishes this century? And we've all had that conversation and someone said that. It implies you've been ignoring the dishes since the dawn of time. With a question like that, you almost want to respond with yes, but only after I discover fire and invent the wheel. Now, that's a pretty good comeback, a little snarky. I like it. Now, let's learn how to spot these loaded questions. When you're confronted with a loaded question, you got to be able to spot it fast. It's like playing dodgeball. Once you see that ball flying, you have two choices. You have to move, or that ball meets your face and you are out. And here are 3 major red flags that tell you the question might be loaded. A presumption of guilt or wrongdoing. How many times have we seen this happen in just the past election cycle and even into the current Trump administration? Any question that insinuates you're doing something immoral or absurd without evidence. For example, why do you want to starve the poor? The question presumes you do, in fact, want to starve the poor. Here's a great real-world example of that. The redoing they're doing with the SNAP program to where you won't be able to buy soda, chips, candy, all this other pre-made garbage that you want poor people to suffer. No, that's not what it is. It's food stamps is meant to help you get healthy food, not junk food. And I've seen this personally here in Chicago. People will swipe the link card and have a bunch of junk food in their car. Now, we're going to get on to extreme language. That's another one. Listen, all or nothing words like always, never, or completely. A question like, why do libertarians always hate the government? Lumps all libertarians together in a monolith of government hating. Not exactly nuanced, and we libertarians have very nuanced policy positions. And we don't say we want to get rid of all government. We say government needs to be limited. Now, misdirected assumptions. This is an interesting one. If you're asked, how can you support a policy that kills jobs? It assumes the policy kills jobs. They haven't proven that yet. They want you to accept it before you ever even answer. Now, catch these signals early, and you'll be able to sidestep the trap. It's like having a spidey sense for sneaky language, and we all do it. Just imagine wearing a loaded question deflector shield around. 1 second you're hearing, "Why do you?" And the next second you're calmly sipping your coffee going, "Nah, I see what you did there. You off in your own little world, and you're peaceful again." Now, how to respond like a libertarian pro, and this is important. Now, I know you're thinking, that's cool, but how do I actually respond? Well, I've got a simple 3-step approach that any freedom-loving, rational-minded person can use. And let's break it down. I'm going to break it down real easy. Expose the presumption. First, politely point out the hidden assumption. For example, if you're asked, "Why do you libertarians want no government whatsoever?" You might say, "Actually, your question assumes we want no government at all, which isn't what I believe." This is like shining a flashlight in a dark corner. Suddenly, the hidden assumption is out in the open for all to see, and then they have to reframe the question. Or you can take the initiative, which I recommend, and reframe the question. Next, you take control of the conversation. Reframe it into a question you can honestly answer. Using our example, what do we believe is that government should be as limited as possible to protect individual liberties, not that it should be abolished entirely. Now you've turned a loaded question into an opportunity to educate the person, because a lot of people aren't aware that they ask loaded questions. I've done that sometimes myself. Now you get into the point where you have to lovingly and also very unambiguously educate and clarify. Finally, share a concise explanation for your perspective. Libertarianism emphasizes personal responsibility, voluntary cooperation, and minimal state intervention, especially in personal freedoms. Instead of being trapped, you're actually taking the lead in this discussion. And that's what you need to do. Is if you allow the debate to be taken over by someone else, you've lost. It's kind of like judo. Using your opponent's energy, that's the loaded question, and flipping it around to highlight your own position. Just don't actually try to judo chop anyone. That might lead to a whole different set of loaded questions from the cops. Now, let's do some practical examples, just so we can see some real-world examples. All right, let's see this in action. Here's a common one for libertarians. Why are you against helping poor people? And that's a whopper for me, because I've had that asked of me several times. Because it presupposes that if you don't support a specific government welfare policy, you might be indifferent to poverty. Let's expose this presumption. Your question assumes that opposing government programs equals not caring about the poor, which I do not accept as a premise. Reframe. I believe in empowering communities and charitable organizations to help people rather than relying solely on state-run programs and stolen tax money. Now, let me give you a little of historical context so you can understand where I'm coming from. Historically, voluntary efforts and mutual aid societies have been very effective. I'm not against helping the poor. I just don't think top-down bureaucracies are always the best solution. And you see, with this 3-step approach, you turn a trap into a chance to spread some knowledge about libertarianism. Now, let's go on to why this matters for everyone. Not just right, left, everyone. Loaded questions don't just target libertarians. They're used against all sorts of people, left, right, center, you name it. The reason they work so well is that they poke at your emotions. We feel compelled almost innately to defend ourselves immediately. But in doing so, we are accidentally accepting a promise we never agreed to, because we don't listen to understand, we listen to respond. And I'm guilty of this, and I do it a lot sometimes, and I have to get better at it. But that's what we're doing here. So whether you're a libertarian, progressive, or think political spectrum is one big clown car, learning how to identify and address loaded questions is vital. It helps keep the conversation honest and ensures you're not tricked into defending positions you never really held. Go back and watch my video on the straw man. Let's be honest. We're all just trying to have a good conversation without being forced into weird confessions like, yes, I guess I do still enjoy skydiving with no parachute. Now let's go with some lightning round examples, because to pick up on loaded questions, you have to be quick on your feet and be nimble with it. Now let's do a rapid fire round of loaded questions you might hear and the quick ways to disarm them. Question: so, have you stopped cheating on your taxes yet? And the answer you would give is, that is since I was cheating before. I file honestly. Why do you think I don't? Another question: when will you stop letting corporate interests control you? And your answer: you're assuming I'm controlled by corporations. I'm not. Can we talk about my actual policy views? And that's the thing. Most people don't know the actual policy views. They just respond to a talking point. Why do you want to let the market run wild without any safety nets? Now, your question implies I want zero oversight. I support a safety net, but it should be minimal and locally managed. And here's why. When it's done at the local level, the government is more accountable to the people. Now, you see how that works? In each case, you shine a light on the presumption, then redirect the conversation to the real stance you have. Now, let's wrap all this up. Loaded questions are like booby traps in a debate. They're designed to make you say something you don't believe or to trip you up so you look bad. But armed with the knowledge of how they work, you can calmly dismantle them, reframe them, and share what you actually think. And that's what being smarter than a libertarian really is all about. Knowing how to navigate tricky rhetoric no matter where you stand on the political map, right, left, center, doesn't matter. And if you ever feel cornered by a loaded question, you can always say, hang on, I need to consult my magic 8-ball. Trust me, it's definitely a conversation changer. Now, thank you for spending these 8 minutes with me learning about loaded questions. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below answering carefully. It's not a question. What is the craziest loaded question you've heard? We'd love to see how you respond. As always, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, the only truly loaded question you should ever accept is, are you ready for more freedom? Until next time, I'm Jeff Metric, and this has been Are You Smarter Than a Libertarian? See you on Wednesday with another video.